Hey, well, welcome to the Dream Labs, Dr. Contrast Live. Just a real quick insert here before we begin. Rather than going into typical programming here today, I thought it'd be kind of nice to kind of pull back a little bit and let the audience or the viewers see what I've been working on for the last behind the scenes for a long period of time, but more so the last month. Just trying to pick up some materials to go into my website store to add to them, like some apparel design. So for the lack of any other conversation, I thought it'd be kind of nice to go through a review here today and get some feedback from you in the audience group if you're viewing in today, whether it's now or you pick it up later. Just some sort of consensus about where we are with what I think is a very interesting addition to our web store at drcontrast.com. So I'm going to walk you through some things here. We've had some samples done, and I just want to get some consensus for what it's worth, and I'll show you some other visual things we're working on as well. And this is certainly not a selfish approach. I just need your help in some areas here to figure out and to help direct which way we take this apparel line for the store, because I've got so much stuff in inventory, automotive, aircraft, product design, and I'm really going to concentrate primarily in the first few phases of the web store to add some apparel work, for example, good t-shirt examples. So there's a whole variety of things here, from black and white line to full color, some very subliminal pieces. I'm going to take a moment to review those things with you today, and take a moment and hopefully get some good feedback from you about which direction to take this thing. Because it's not an easy task to deal with, but I think the thing that I'm really most excited about in this phase here, especially with this batch of first runs you'll see here briefly, is that I'm really fortunate to know a very, very, very talented individual in town here. His name is Michael Sherrill, and Michael is the director, CEO of MES Painting and Graphics, the corporation, and does just a phenomenal job of print work, wrapping work, full painting systems. He's a full service individual. Known Michael for the last 15 to 20 years, and I've always had a great respect for his work. So maybe about a month ago, I got recontacted and just reached out to him and said, "Hey, Michael, I've got an idea for some apparel work here, and you're the master at this stuff. Would you be working with me on picking some good elements and doing some prototype work to get some feedback from my website?" So I'd absolutely love to work with you on things like that. So I sent him some images, maybe a total of 8, and he picked up a few of them here. Got them high definition, 400 DPI material, got to him, and he started to put together this program just on some very quick, very simple direct application on t-shirt graphics. He does a high quality t-shirt. It's a pre-shrunk, very high quality material, and the great thing about what Michael does when he prints this stuff, he doesn't sit on the surface. He actually embeds the image into the fabric itself, so it doesn't fade. It stays forever, and very, very long-lasting material. And that's what I want to do. I want to develop a quality product on my website that when people do pick it up and perhaps look into the website and purchase a shirt or a piece of graphics that we're doing here at Dr. Contrast, that it's worthwhile for them and it'll last for them. So I want to walk you through some images here that Michael's done for me here, and I'll show you a couple of sketches I've been working on recently, and again, get your feedback on this material. So this first one is just a black and white line study. It's a pencil sketch of an advanced Corvette series we did some time ago for the pre-C8 series. Again, a lot of definition, but I think some of the sharpness could kind of a little bit bolder, maybe some of the gray areas and some of the simple tones in between on the hood graphics and the like. But I think the idea of getting a good black and white line drawing is going to get more thick and thin, maybe more dramatic. I have to really care for this one. I think it's a nice setup, good start, but maybe a little bolder in some areas. You can kind of go with it, get more of the hard blacks and whites to kind of read for us. It'd be a little bit better, a little bit more strength. But again, this is the first lights I sent to Michael for some evaluation, and he was pretty pleased with the way it turned out. And again, the quality of the work is just outstanding. I mean, if you see the original sketch of this on the printed material itself, it's almost identical. Just really, really cool stuff. So there's the first one we're going to look at here. And so that's black and white simple line. And let's move to this. This is another variation on theme here. This is much more of a color system. This is a full C8 program that done in full color with pastel marker, and a lot of this is difficult to pick up. This very soft pastel work back here, but again, notice the definition he's getting with this on the material itself. It's again the original sketch. If I put that side by side, it's almost identical. This one is just, in his opinion, it's a little bit weaker because he saw some things like pixelizations back in through here. The pixeling is not quite as, he didn't pick up quite as cleanly as he wanted to over here. and some of the definition and some of the work. This, I think, was a little lower resolution as to why. This is about 300, so I'm going to step this back up again, resend the sketch to him at a 400 DPI, so we kind of more definition, but the scale is terrific. I mean, when you open these things up, it's almost full chest. Really well positioned, and again, the quality of the work is just, as far as I'm concerned, is sensational. And again, Michael, to you, if you're watching future later on, so much great appreciation for the respect and work that you do. It's marvelous. So again, it's his company is called MES Painting and Graphics. You're located. I'll give you a web address or contact information near the end of the program here. So that was full color on the C8 Corvette. Let's go to this guy. And the next one is the LaFerrari. Again, same image. If you looked at this, if you saw the actual finished sketch work on this beauty, there's 11 by 17. Had it rescanned at 400 DPI. Sent it down to Michael, and it's almost it literally is. It's identical to what the image is. And again, the beauty of it is when you run your hands across this thing, it's not on the surface. He has a great magic of putting the actual fabric in the inks or the transfer right in the fabric itself, so it stays consistent and wash after wash after wash. It doesn't begin to fade on you. So again, this is LaFerrari. It's a phenomenal piece of work here from Michael's point of view, getting these things to transfer. He takes his time. He tuned in. I think he told me on this one, for example, in fact, all the ones we're looking at here, he told me when he went through the process of putting on the film plate to kind of screen them, he brought his computer up and started tweaking color as he went through it in area to area to make sure that the registration was right on the money. And he kept it consistent from the original sketch to the actual transfer onto the shirt itself. So here's another one. Let's go. This is a LaFerrari. And the next one here is a Porsche 918 Spider. This one is really a surprise to me when I saw this. The original illustration, about the same content again, but what surprised me was the clarity of the color itself. Yellow is extremely difficult to work with, and especially at a scale like this, when you go from the actual 11 by 17 concept sketch into a full-scale t-shirt apparatus here. Really amazing how he kept the definition together, and all the detail work, for example, some of the subtle changes of the actual paint scheme itself and reflection qualities, absolutely phenomenal. And again, he was really pleased with this one. He said this is the best one he kind of transferred from the sketches for the apparel line. So I thought it was really interesting to see all that come together. And this one was a real this is a real challenge for him. But he said, boy, we might go a little brighter in some of the yellows. This a little bit faded here, for example, but not minor. I went back to look at the original sketch with him in the office in the studio. Very, very close, and not a lot of tweaking to be done here. So I think that's, again, this is a Porsche 918 Spider. A lot of good work here from his point of view. And I might point out too, at this stage of the game, everything we see here, for example, if we go Ferrari, Porsche, Lamborghini, add to this whole storyline Corvette, we're going to go through some retail stores and some of the automobile clubs in the area here, kind of get this thing marketed out there. And what I've got to do, once we find out which ones we're going to add to the store, I'll probably maybe start with 4 images. And what we add to the store, do a little blurb, a little storyline behind what the vehicle is, and add something, a little bit of caption to it on the web store itself at drcontrast.com. So here's that 918 Spider, and then we go down the line here. This is an interesting group. This guy here is a really interesting one to look at. This is a very classic piece. I thought we'd kind of switch gears and go back in time here to a 1930 gurney nutting Bentley Speed 6. This is the Blue Train Coupe. Absolutely beautiful piece of sculpture. I mean, one of the great classics in automobile British history. It's a 1930 vintage. And then really a strong statement in terms of what we do, what they did back then with some of the surface work and coach work was just absolutely phenomenal. Again, just neat to see. This might be a line we might do with some classics, for example, like the old Bentley series, some of the old Maseratis, some old Ferraris, like the 250 GT, for example. The one I did last week on my Twitch program, that 250 GT Berlinetta, that the silver and yellow, for example, would be a good candidate as well, with some minor changes in the material itself. But there's a whole series of things that we could work with in terms of maybe a classic line. That's an interesting thing too. I happen to think about maybe in this genre, maybe there's a contemporary supercar series, and maybe there's a genre for great automobile classics of the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and just go through the timeline. For example, just looking at the number of vehicles that were done back in the 30s and 40s that were just absolutely stunners. the Bentley series, the Rolls-Royce series, some of the Delahis, the Allards, just on and on the list goes. Some of the early, for example, Lagondas, beautiful coach work, and begin to do some illustration. But I don't know if there's a market for that out there or not. I guess we'll find out if we do a couple of them, put them on the website, and again, maybe into some distribution, like some vehicle dealerships here locally, for example, that Midwest Auto Group might be interested in picking up some shirts for their clientele base. So all that's a possibility, but I think it's really more incumbent for us to kind of find out which ones are going to be the strongest suit, and with your input on maybe getting some feedback to me on which ones you like and dislike and which way we should go with it. Really be interesting to see what kind of feedback we get. And before I forget to, really be helpful if you'd be kind enough to take a moment and drop me a line, please drop me a note at my email address at jim@drcontrast.com, and just drop a note about what you think in terms of yays and nays and what you'd like to see done, future think, maybe what I want to add to the storyline itself, and also in addition to automobile work. Well, let me go through this first, and we'll kind of add some things to it as I go here. There's some additional pieces I'm going to work on as well. It's not just automotive. I've been very fortunate to do a lot of neat things with aircraft work, some not so much nautical, but aircraft and automobile work. I think that's where the real primary target might be, to get some of the neat stuff that we've done in the past. For example, I've done some great work for the B-2 bomber, the B-1 bomber, some stealth aircraft, F-117A. All that stuff is in my inventory, and I want to just see what kind of feedback we get from your audience of participation, and how to direct this thing on the website to kind of just generate some interest in not only the visual week to week, every Tuesday, Thursday, during drawing material work, but also adding some things to the apparel line, and taking some input from you, which I greatly respect. Please don't ever underestimate that. A lot of respect for what you see in terms of what I do from every Tuesday and Thursday. So your input is going to be very helpful and very valuable here to help me put this whole store apparatus line together. So this is a Bentley series, and we tried something else, and we have a lot of work to do yet, but we went to switch gears. Went to a black shirt. He's not really pleased with this, but I thought we kind of just to show you what the kind of content we have. When I go to a black shirt, I've already got some other materials, for example, together. Materials meaning sketches that are much more line art. Maybe it's not so much illustration, but it's more like black and white line art, and high contrast systems like that. Elevations are just thick and thin line studies to put on a black shirt or a different colored shirt as well. But Michael was kind enough to put together both the white shirt and the black shirt to see where the contrasts are. You can see where you pick up a lot of the grain. It's kind of a neat, kind of an antique look. So that might have some possibility. And again, your input is going to be very helpful. It gets a little fuzzy in some areas, but I mean, that's not so bad for an old classic piece such as this, 1930s Bentley Blue Train Special. So that's where we are with our apparel line. Now I'll go back and review these as we kind of wrap them up here. In addition to that, I've been doing some graphic work here, just some high contrast black and white graphic materials here, and just trying to identify some interesting areas of work to deal with. And these would be kind of interesting. In talking to Michael about getting high contrast piece together, he was much more concerned about, for example, we did a black shirt. We take he'd rather see a black and white line drawing, for example, that he can go ahead and Photoshop, transfer, and then reverse it and put it on a black shirt. So this become a white image or a red image or a pale blue or a bright yellow on a black background. So I think we're doing a whole family of just pure minimal surface line work here to kind of get into the system as well. So I think that's going to be part of the process. This is my first shot at a Corvette, and shame on me, I just didn't like it at all. I thought, it's okay. It's got some character to it. Maybe up on top here, a little bit weighted up front, not enough weight in the back. So I'll show you in a minute what we did with that guy. And down below, Lamborghini Aventador, a little bit cleaner. Get some of that same gesture, that same canter here. Let me get rid of some of this stuff here. So that was the first pass at it here. Then we went Bentley GT up on top, and then the Ferrari 488 Pista down below. And again, I'm trying to keep it real simple and slick. Not a lot of fuss to it, just to kind of get some transfer in to see what may be going to take place. There are some things that they're proportionally, but get those enlarged here. Again, I think this whole family of forms here are really delivered for getting used to or getting them into the action of a white or a different color on a dark shirt. So It's all part of the package of putting together. So I want to put some variety on the website that it's not all the same look all the time. So we change it around quite a bit. And so that's another two sketches done with. And the last one back, and notice this is the first Corvette we did here. I mean, look at the difference between that one and that one. I think there's a much closer gesture up on top. So I went back and redid the Corvette piece up on top there. And I don't know if I want to add the little blade back here or not. I think that might be iconic enough to get that intake piece to come together, but it's a lot less, there's a lot more weight being distributed as well, I think, as opposed to what we had down here where I started. I'm going to be a little more avant-garde with this one. It just didn't have the same character. I tried to kind of move the roof line forward, but I went back to the original where the actual roof line comes up and kicks back into the A-pillar. So I kept that pretty clean. I think a much better operation there as far as that goes and what it looks like. So, and again, down below, I think I just started a little pencil sketch here about getting in some minimal graphics. Just a pencil sketch about, do I want to go this route? When I go this route, maybe just thick and thin line, and to get some of the gestures down, and to not be so critical in terms of trying to make it look like an illustration, but more of a line study. So there's a whole variety of things I'm trying to look at here from the apparel line when it comes to Dr. Contrast material. So it's just interesting to see what might take place here. And again, gone full color, black and white line, as we showed you in the first series of sample shirts that we did. Then into this black and white high contrast elevation studies. We could turn this around and go to 3/4 fronts. I've got some really neat black and white line drawing, 3/4 front and rear, some Rolls Royce material we might punch in there as well. But more of this kind of look, maybe to add to the line. So it's automotive, it's suggestive, but it doesn't really require. We might pick up some icons, for example, Aston Martin, Jaguar, some of the actual marquees and work with them, but to take it into more of an illustration line form, not so much color like we did in the first few we showed you, to get it a little, again, variety on the website to really make it look like we've got a good diverse process of things to work with here. So it's really interesting in terms of how that'll put together. Let me just go here. Let's see, this one, that's my underlay here. There's got a little bit of a stain on it, so there it is. But I think, it all comes down to getting used to seeing, for example, how to get the gesture set. And I think it's one of those deals where if we did, for example, we went through a 3/4 line study, maybe it's more of something like this, where we come back in and pick up the wheel itself, take it back in perspective, just in pencil here, just come back in and just kind of come back in and really fold into some of the stuff that we're dealing with here to do this. And just much more. A little bit more romantic. Come back across here and get this thing to kind of front end here. This is the kind of line work I'm kind of looking at here. Come back there, let's just pick up the center line. And let's push it over to here. Come back in again and just get this thing to curl for me here. There it is, take that through. Pick it up over here. And come right down the middle. Make it more of a ghost series. All the Rolls Royce. The wing victory on the top of the hood system here. Just things like that. And let's get that crown and let's get that front end graphic out front here. This. Maybe it's just enough of that. Put some sport mirrors up on top. I mean, again, if you just think in terms of what that line material might look like, I think that could be kind of an interesting series of work, line work to do, or weights to work with. Get this back here. Again, and then again, something like, for example, coming back in and just doing a gesture your own, just get a nice simple round, take that through, come up the back deck with this thing, just pick up that same basic gesture into the hood line. That very classic Bugatti. Just looking at that, just getting a lot of weight. Maybe that's a thick and thin line that does this. Comes out the front wheel. Off of this, and then just lose it as it comes back. There's so many areas to work with here as far as weights are concerned. So there's a whole family of things I'd love to be able to work with here to get this thing put into practice. And again, these are the things I've been working at, for example, in addition to like we showed you here with this 3/4 rear up on top, and then this line study, for example, down below. And then even this, going back to that with this Rolls Royce piece, let's go with that guy. Just something that has a little more line weight to it and less of the graphic insinuation of what we've got here with this Corvette and this lower piece here. That could be interesting. It might be a bit too fussy here, maybe too much information as far as I'm concerned for the time being. With it, I'd rather go much more minimalistic. Maybe just thick and thin on some fender weights. Again, this might be a good family to work with in terms of the actual icons we deal with, as opposed to becoming much more illustrative like we've done. I'm going to go back to some of these earlier sketches here. So that's basically a family of black and white art that we were dealing with to get some input on some shirt graphics with color change. Again, not to be redundant, but to review again, these were done primarily as just black and white studies that we can convert into color to transfer them onto a black and white a black shirt with any color. And I'm going to add some graphics, for example. There's like C8R. Aventador. We'll add graphics to that so there's some sort of identifier with it. And again, it's all predicated on getting a good mix of materials for the website to work with, and change some of the, like in the web store, add a little bit more, other than just print work that we're going to be adding to as well. Also some apparel work. Let's go back here and review some of the things we're dealing with. This is, again, a black shirt, Bentley series here. That was, again, not quite as clean as we want it to be, but it has a classic, maybe old-fashioned look to it. Might not be kind of interesting, but I think it's, if we did that, maybe it's just vehicle and logo, and maybe knock out some of the background work so we get a lot more clarity in some of the vehicle itself, and then bring up the intensity of the color. Much more successful here with the Bentley and on the white series. I mean, it's really a strong statement. I mean, this is a watercolor. This was initially a watercolor, and I think Michael did a phenomenal job of transferring that onto the actual shirt itself. And again, I think it's really important to stress that these shirts are high quality. When he prints this, it becomes part of the fabric. It doesn't sit on the surface. He actually embeds it in there and does a great job of transferring and photoshopping and tweaking some of the colors and some of the dealings that he's working with to make it very transferable, and really great work. This one was a real shocker again in review. Not shocker that yellow is tough to work with, and the definition he got there was just absolutely sensational. So again, it gives me a good idea. When I went to Michael to look at these things to work with, I thought, we're going to give him a variety of colors to deal with, some blacks, some silvers, yellows, reds. How do they transfer? Because you all know, especially for apparel work, if you have the wrong color selection and it's not quite tuned in, boy, it's really sour in a hurry. But I wanted to make sure that we had, when we go with this line, that we had the right color combinations to work with. And now that I'm seeing some of the results of what he can do, I'm not afraid at all to go back and illustrate yellows and maybe bright greens or something of that nature, like the old Jaguar, the Allards of the racing generation, Aston Martins of the 50s, and even now with some of the IMSA machines. Interesting color combinations. I'm much more confident now as a result of his work to transfer that under a shirt, that I can take chances with color and illustration. So that was the Porsche, the 918 Spider. And we also had in the mix here, LaFerrari. That one turned out really well because this was a really tough one to deal with. That was all, that illustration, this illustration, by the way, is the one right behind me here in my office. He just took that image, not this image, but the actual original sketch, and transferred that into this sketch. And I mean, this t-shirt, just phenomenal. Again, really got all the subtleties in place, some of the reflection of the sky, and the reflection of glass into the hood surface itself. An incredibly, really, really professional job. He does this great work. He does a lot of different vehicle wrap work. He does a lot of painting systems for large industrial complexes. He'll do wall skins. I mean, it's amazing what this guy can do. Very, very good at what he does. And then here's another one here. Let's go back to this guy. This is the one I'm going to rework here in terms of getting a lot more. This is a C8 study. I'm going to go back in and get a stronger. We had this one sent to Michael at 300 dpi. It wasn't too bad, but it begins to fade over here if you notice a little bit. And then again, he noticed it up and through here as well, especially some of the definition around the pillar. So I'm going to take this back out and get a good 400 dpi process and rerun this and see if we get more little richer some of the sky reflections that he's missed in here. Not his fault, just a matter of the content of the image he received. Then last but not least, this again is a good example of a line drawing that I'm looked at. I'm going to just put that in the mix to see what we had in terms of line studies. And I think for the most part, it works. We're going to get more concentration in areas like the front, the grill texture, and the intakes, and maybe more, a little bolder with some of the line weights around the form, so that we don't lose some of the definitions from a distance. But it has a real good, good solid balance of high contrast black and white, and maybe this could go again a good example for this. Add a little bit of marker and some tone to it. This could really work well as a value study. Also, maybe it's done in red. Maybe it's red with the black insert. We can change format now with this, with his ability to deal with certain printed images and how he handles it. So I think it's really exciting, and I just wanted to take a moment. A little bit of a different program today. I realize we'll come back into the mainstream on Thursday. There was some illustration work to deal with, some architectural things maybe, or maybe some more automotive work. I haven't made my mind up yet. I want to change venues and make sure that we're staying very consistent, changing all the time to make sure that there's enough education things out there that those who tune in can learn from. I'm also going to try to put together a series of educational pieces on some soft goods and maybe go back to some basic perspective work and volumetrics. So I'm planning ahead of here the schedule we're going to deal with in time to come for illustration and for the streaming programs on Tuesdays and Thursdays with Dr. Contrast. So all that to say that once again, please, if you have a moment, just for what it's worth, take a moment here to look at his website. And it's Michael, it's M-E-S, capital M-E-S, MES Painting and graphics.com. Just phenomenal. The lineup he does, it's overwhelming what he does in terms of skill sets, and everything he touches with first class. He's one of those guys that when you work with him and you sit down and chat about what your goals are, he'll sit back and say, yeah, but we did this. However, let's try. He improves the breed, and that's what I respect most about Michael and working with him over the years. He takes an idea that you have and begins to, from his expertise, say, well, if we did this, it would work out better. If we did this, it would be much more challenging. It'd be less challenging. Really listen to him. And again, the results here from his shirt work is just absolutely, I mean, I'm just overwhelmed when I saw these guys. I picked them up on Monday and just a terrific set of graphics. So again, it's MES Painting and graphics.com. Look at his website. His name is Michael Sherrill. Great individual, terrific to work with. And again, I just want to wrap it up here today. And it's a very short program, but I want to bring you up to speed on what we've been working on behind the scenes, in addition to some of the programming work we do on a Tuesday, Thursday, traditionally speaking. So I'll be adding to this as we go here, obviously. And again, if you pick up the stream later on, if you're watching now, please give me some indication of which way you'd like, what you like and dislike. What would you like to see? More club work, more classic work, more supercars, more black and white line studies, more three-quarter fronts and rears. I'm putting together a real good mix, and I don't want to be the lonesome end here in terms of making the decisions. I have a lot of respect for what you see from my stream programs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You've been very kind to me over the course of time about input and about feedback, and I just want to keep that alive. So once again, really appreciate the time today. It's been a short period, but I'll pick it up again on Thursday. And I want to take a moment again to thank you, Shadow, for tuning in, even though I know you're muted, but thanks for tuning in. And again, drop me a note about what you think. I can't wait to show you this when you get back in the office, hopefully on Wednesday, tomorrow or Friday. I mean, you're going to the film doesn't do the actual projection on the screen doesn't do these guys justice. He's just done an enormous job, phenomenal job. So looking forward to it, guys. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, and I'll be back live on Thursday at 2 o'clock with some programming work and maybe change subject matter. Obviously, go back more of a drawing system and more maybe a little educational piece too, depending on what kind of feedback I get here. But again, once again, please, just for what it's worth, take a moment or so and give me some input on what you think would be a good fleet to work with in terms of more exotic cars, more classic cars. Do you like full color? Do you want black and white? Do you want more subliminal work? And that's going to help me put together a good program for my web store at drcontrast.com. And while I'm at it, please visit the website at drcontrast.com. I've got some great drawing programs and lesson programs there to work with. 9 studies, are very affordable, and I think it'd be of some help to you in the drawing process and illustration process. And again, drop me a note at jim@drcontrast.com. And last but not least, every time I stream, for example, I close with this. I think it's the most important part of the whole operation. And never forget to remember to dare to be great. Thanks very much, gang. We'll see you Thursday. And thanks for your time today, allowing me to bring you up to speed on where we are with this apparel line. Looking forward to some feedback. Take care. All the best. And we'll see you Thursday at 2. All the best. Thanks, gang. Take care.